Hello and welcome to the RotoWire Esports Show. My name is Ethan Sexton, and joining me, as always, DFS Chan. Chan, how are you today?
Good. LGD pulled through. Yay.
Yeah. This morning's slate, kind of what we thought was going to happen with LGD and EDG winning. I think what we didn't fully expect to happen, though, was that EDG would be the highest scoring team on the slate. Although I did want to give you some props because you did mention right at the end of the video yesterday that Ultra Prime might force EDG to play a little faster, and that's certainly what happened with EDG long stack being the optimal way to go today.
Yeah, Ultra Prime, man. I cashed on my cash lineup. I had LGD, 4 long stack from LGD. I had Kramer captain, and then I just had EDG Viper and Mako and their team 4-3, typical traditional 4-3. But yeah, I mean it cashed. But man, EDG. As soon as I saw that score in the first game, I was like, well, maybe game 2 will be slower. No, right. Ultra Prime just started throwing bodies again, and I mean, I don't know. They just look really bad. And I think just like what we said about Victory 5 yesterday, I think Ultra Prime it's definitely in the bottom tier for now. So
yeah, I think one takeaway we could take from EDG is that they sometimes play a slower macro style, but if a team forces them to play faster, it looks like they can do it. Now maybe that won't be the case when they play a better team than Ultra Prime, who makes them play at a faster pace. Like if they get an FPX or something like that. But at least this morning they could play at a little bit of a faster pace. And then the other takeaway I wanted to ask you about is Invictus Gaming just a bad team now?
Yeah, I think they need help in the bottom lane. And also, I mean, I think they're only going to get more volatile when the Shy comes back. So I don't know. I'm not touching them. Until they actually get some, consistency somewhat in the bottom lane and also in the top lane. I'm just waiting to see when the Shy comes back from the visa issue and the quarantine issue. I think he's going to be back pretty soon, so we'll see what happens. I mean, he is the Shy after all, and they have a tough decision to make. But for now, I just feel like Invictus Gaming might be the most volatile team in the LPL.
Yeah, I think he's definitely going to come back into the lineup too because they're just not performing well. Nenny, I don't think it's really his fault, but I just think that the Shy has too much name value and, formerly, 2 years ago, 3 years ago, we're talking about him as being one of the best players in the world. So I think he's going to come back and take that starting role over when he's ready.
Right.
So, yeah, that's enough about today's 2-gamer, though. Let's jump over to tomorrow. We've got a 4-gamer. LCK is back, kicking things off with the Telecom Wars here. T1 versus KT Rolster. T1 are the most expensive team on DraftKings, most expensive plays on DraftKings. But do you have a lot of confidence in them? I mean, they've been shaky. They're coming off a win. And KT are no pushovers. KT have been pretty good this year. So how do you feel about this first series of the day?
Yeah, I like KT as a GPP play for sure. Not only because T1 has been volatile, but also because KT has been scoring well in their wins. They're the fastest LCK team on the slate amongst T1, KT, and Brion and Genji on the slate. I do think this T1 versus KT matchup will produce more kills compared to the other LCK matchup. So, yeah, I like KT as a GPP play. I think T1 should win and bounce back here. But, I think, like you said, KT is no pushover, and they've been playing in good form. I like that matchup. And I think if KT wins, upsets T1, I think KT will score pretty well. But I think if T1 wins, I think they're going to try to go back to their old, slow style, macro game play. So, I don't know if I necessarily like T1 on the slate because I like the other 4 LPL teams on the slate.
Yeah, that's what I was going to ask you. I think I don't think I would play T1 as the most expensive favorite on the slate. I just think there's too much risk involved. Not even just from – I mean, part of it is, are they going to win? KT are no pushovers, like we said. And even if you think they're going to win, there's some definite question marks there of, are they going to score enough to really pay off those salaries? I mean, they are – I shouldn't have said they're the most expensive. They're only the most expensive in 3 of the 5 player roles, and then the team slot, they're the second most expensive. But overall, they're pretty expensive for what seems like moderate upside to me.
Yeah, and not to mention, I mean, I think we're about 3 weeks into the LCK season or split, and there is a good chance that T1 might sub out some of the players, whether the starting five or one of the positions, or after game one, if they lose, they might bring in some other players that they have on the bench. So yeah, I mean, there's that risk for T1 as well. Whereas KT, this five has been playing solid, and I think I think it's less likely that these KT players, any of these KT players will get benched or subbed out compared to T1 counterparts. So.
Right. So I think that kind of sums up that series. KT live underdog, viable underdog for sure. T1 kind of a sketchy favorite in both of our opinions, it sounds like. Chan, if it's all right with you, I want to jump to the other LCK matchup because I think the LPL matchups are a little more interesting. Gen G versus Fredit Brion. This one feels like a pretty – I wanted to jump to this one basically because it feels like a pretty safe bet that Gen G will 2-0. We've seen Fredit Brion be giant slayers in the past. So, but even when they do that, they're not very good for DFS. So for me, Fredit Brion really aren't even on the slate. Gen G, I think, win comfortably, but I don't really think they're – same question we always have with Gen G, right? Are they really going to be very viable for DFS?
Yeah, I think Gen G is a decent consideration for cash games because they have a decent chance of winning higher chance of winning compared to other teams on the slate. But overall, I just like KT as the only viable LCK team that I'll probably consider playing. Even Gen G, they play so slow. They have the lowest combined kills per minute. Actually, no. Fredit Brion does, but Gen G also has a very low combined kills per minute as well, and they tend to play slow as well at 0.69. And that is, the lowest LPL team on the slate has the 0.72 at Bilibili Gaming, BLG, as that CK combined kills per minute. So yeah, I don't like Gen G. I don't like Brion. I don't like T1 as kill pace today on this slate. So I'm almost sure that I'm not gonna play any LCK team except for maybe KT in a GPP setting.
Yeah, I think I agree with you. I mean, when we talk about, you bringing up a lot of combined kills per minute, we always talk about Fredit Brion and Gen G being slow. So them playing each other doesn't really feel like a great scenario for DFS. Yeah. The Gen G team slot, I think, is always viable if you have money left over and you want to pay up. It's the most expensive on the slate. That is always viable for me, but their players are just almost never really in play, in my opinion, just because they play at such a slower pace.
If you are to play a Gen G, a player, if you want to do like a one-off, obviously Ruler has been scoring pretty well for that team. So
he's the character, right?
Yeah, exactly. So Gen G, I think they have a decent chance of winning. But I don't know. Like you said, Brion has been playing good teams and beating good teams. I think there's a decent chance. Brion can pull up an upset here. Gen G is 6-0 so far in the split. I think they're due for a loss at some point, and I feel like that's where Brion comes in all the time. Like when these hot teams, winning teams are on hot streak, and then Brion comes in, just knocks them down. So, and Brion has been having a better split compared to the last split, even. And you know what happened in the last split. So I don't know. I like Brion. Maybe it's a decent shot at upsetting Gen G, but like you said, for DFS purposes, I don't like them.
Yeah, I think it's a stay away series for both of us. It sounds like for good reason, I think. Let's talk about a series that could be a bit more exciting here. So BLG up against WE. WE are priced as pretty severe favorites, with BLG being the second or the lowest salaries on DraftKings for the most part. Feels like to me BLG could cause an upset here. How do you feel?
That's a tough one.
I should mention too, sorry, Chan, that Shanks is coming back in to start for Mole.
Right.
We thought Mole would be an upgrade. He really hasn't been. But Shanks is kind of an uninspiring. That mid lane's just a weak weak spot for WE overall.
Yeah, it is. And I think I mentioned this when Mole first started for that team. I think Mole is more of a playmaker, I think, but he hasn't really been a playmaker for that team yet. So I think they bring in Shanks to kind of change it up a little bit. I know they've been on a skid, Team WE. But yeah, but they're going up against BLG. On the other hand, BLG has been struggling a lot too. I mean, they've been so inconsistent. I know Aiming has been playing pretty well, and Weiwei has been playing pretty well. But Zika and PP God has been very underwhelming, in my opinion, this split. And I know Bew has been playing pretty well, but he's going up against Breed on WE, and Breed has been playing lights out as well for that team. So, yeah, I don't know. I mean, I think this is a toss-up, just like the odds indicate. I think WE is a slight favorite, but yeah, I think I would have to give the edge to WE. I mean, I'm not sure how Shanks will fit right in, but, he has played with this team before a lot. So he's had, game time with Beishang and, used to be Jumeng, now Elk. And Breathe. So I like that Shanks is coming in to kind of spice up their team a little bit. Maybe that will get the team going. I just didn't like the way that BLG has been playing the last couple series. I know they won, I think the last series or 2 series ago, but they've been so inconsistent in team fights and they've just been up and down. And so I like WE here, but I do like them to score well. BLG has been playing pretty slow, but WE has been playing pretty fast. So I like WE here, maybe 2-1,
Yeah, I think I agree with you. I think WE are the better team on paper and have been playing better. I think, Shanks is kind of like uninspiring. I think there's not really much concern about him coming back in because, like you said, he played pretty much the entire last split with them. So I don't think there'll be any synergy issues or anything like that. I think if I was going to play WE, though, I probably wouldn't play Shanks. I'd probably go for the rest of WE and leave him out just because WE, their mid laners tend to play a more supportive style anyway, so you can probably get a better mid laner somewhere else. I think I do agree with you, though, that WE should be favored. I think BLG have a chance of upsetting, but I think I like KT's chances a little better, and I definitely like KT's chances to score better if they win, if they both won, say. So, yeah, I'm with you. I think this ends up being a WE win.
Yeah. At least Teacher Ma is not starting for WE. So.
the Galio one trick, right? Yeah. Yeah. He's long gone. I think. I don't even think he's on the roster anymore. But yeah. So the last series we're going to talk about, the second LPL series, a great matchup on paper, really exciting for the neutrals. Top Esports versus RNG. RNG are 1-3 coming off MSI. They've been pretty rough, and Top Esports not much better at 2-2. So both teams off to pretty slow starts. A great matchup on paper. They're priced basically the same on DraftKings. DraftKings made Top Esports the slight favorites in terms of pricing, but it's like it's one of those things. Well, it depends on the role, I guess, because Knight is the most expensive mid laner. But like AD carry, Jackie Love is 7,400. Gala is 7,200, so it's a pretty close matchup overall. How do you feel about it, man? Two underwhelming teams with 2 teams on their day that can be great. So it's a tough one to call.
I think RNG will shit on Top Esports.
All right, it's not going to be close.
I think RNG
end the video right there. All right, no more analysis required.
No, yeah, I do think RNG is a much better team. I think the slump in the first couple series actually for RNG is due to the MSI and hangover and all that. So they hadn't been practicing. So I mean they're starting to gain form. I mean even just by watching the last 2 series, you could see that their team fights have been getting better. I know Gala has been playing lights out. I mean by himself, and Xiaohu obviously has been playing well too. But the rest of the team hadn't been playing well. But I do like RNG here 2-0. I think Xiaohu and Xingtian, I think that's just going to be a mismatch. I think Xiaohu along with Nuguri for FPX, who has been struggling a little bit in the last couple series, Xiaohu has been just lights out. I mean, with everything from laning and team fights, I mean, he's just been so good. And I think he will teach a lesson or two to Qingtian, in that matchup. And I don't know, I just feel like Jackie Love, I know he played, in terms of DFS, he played well in the last game or series. He was on Aphelios, but then, Aphelios late game, as you know, Ethan, I mean, it can destroy the other team. So I feel like that was more of a champion and the game script than Jackie Love's form. I think he's still struggling a little bit. I think Knight on Top Esports is the only player that has been just lights out for that team.
Yeah.
And I believe that Crying will, decent, mitigate that that advantage for Knight there. So I love RNG here in this spot. And for DFS purposes, I mean, this is the matchup just based on strictly based on metrics, combined kills per minute and the pace kills per game and deaths per game. This is the marquee matchup where you're going to see a high score, or you're expected to see a high score. So I love RNG in this spot. I haven't looked at the exact pricing on DraftKings, but I love RNG's players here. I think I'm just going to long stack RNG and see where I can go from there by using short stack from other teams.
They're cheap, man. RNG are cheap, so you can make some pretty nice combinations with them because they're priced as the underdogs in this matchup. And I actually agree with you. I'm glad you were really passionate about it. I actually think Top Esports have been awful. Other than Knight, I think Knight has carried them in both their wins. And I think Jackie Love has put up some decent score lines, like you said. Like at the end of the games, his KDAs look good. But I think overall, Top Esports have not looked good in the games I've watched them play, in my opinion. And I'm not like a genius, like expert of League of Legends gameplay, right? But just watching, I think they've been pretty rough. With Knight being the only guy that's looked good, and he's really carried them to their wins. So if you think Top Esports are going to win, I think Knight is definitely in consideration for your captain spot. But I'm with you. I think RNG start to turn their season around this week, starting with a big matchup against Top. We both love Qingtian, right? Dude is an absolute built like a massive brick shit house, right? He is a huge dude. They did that side by side with him and Fearness the other day, and he was like towering over him in the camera, which was pretty funny. But I think Xiaohu is going to destroy him, just like you said. I think it's the biggest mismatch on the slate. Cryin is a pretty big mismatch in Knight's favor as well in the mid lane, but I do think Cryin can weak side fine. He's the weakest member of RNG, and he'll play like Karma or Lulu or something, and he'll be completely fine. So I'm with you. I think actually RNG win this in pretty one-sided favor at the end of the day, and getting them at a discount, not going to happen very often. So I think this is a great situation to get RNG at a discount and pair them up with some other teams that we like that are priced as favorites.
Yeah, I agree. And for DFS purposes, I mean, I do think Knight is much better than Crying, but it looks like on the RotoWire opponent average page where it shows how many points, DK points, fantasy points each team has given up by position. Mm-hmm. And it looks to me shows that Top Esports has given up the most DK points to the opposing mid laners.
Wow.
And the 80 carries, which we kind of expect, but sometimes, it's mostly 80 carries. I mean, I think that tells me maybe Crying would be a decent option as well, even though, he hadn't been playing very, as well as other teammates on that team. So.
Yeah. Just, I call him the weak link of the team, but that doesn't mean he's a bad player, right? He's not a bad player. So he's definitely good. Yeah, Chan, I mean, it's a pretty good slate overall. Some exciting underdogs, honestly, which we don't get a lot, like multiple exciting underdogs. Even if, we think they're not all going to win, there's some viability to pretty much all of them except Fred at Breon, in my opinion. So a decent little 4-game slate tomorrow. Capping off, I'll definitely be watching that RNG Top Esports series. If I can, I might be busy with work, but I'll try to have it on in the background or something while I'm doing stuff. Anything else you wanted to bring up for tomorrow before we go?
No, I think that's it. I mean, like 2 close LPL games and then not as close LCK games, but I do think KT is definitely a viable underdog. And then, Breon might shock us again, but then that whole matchup between Breon and Genji is disgusting. So, yeah. So I think you just need to get those 2 LPL teams right and see what happens.
Yeah, for sure. As is usually the case, right? So not a surprise to anyone. Yeah, Chan, thanks, man. If you guys have liked this video, please give us a like and subscribe to the channel down below. Helps you. You know, we're doing videos for all kinds of sports on the RotoWire channel. So if you're a fan of more than just League of Legends, there's tons of stuff. Baseball's in full swing, of course. Euro soccer going on still. Those guys have been crushing it with the videos. And football is going to be kicking off, you know, right around the corner here. So we'll be jumping into full swing with that as well. If you want to check out the RotoWire website, you can get a free 10-day trial. rotowire.com/try. No credit card required. Once you're there, you can go to rotowire.com/chat and you can join the subscriber-only Discord. Chan and I are in there chatting. Chan's always dropping good nuggets of information. So definitely come in there and join the community. It's you know, the esports channel isn't the always popping off the most, but we definitely have some good conversation in there from time to time. So feel free to check that out. Chan, thank you, my friend. We will talk to you tomorrow. Unfortunately, I brought this up yesterday. There's no LPL on Thursday. I'm not entirely sure why still, but it's a 2-game LCK slate, which is, I think, worse than even a 2-game LPL slate. So, but we'll be here to cover it. It might be a quick video, but we'll be here, man.
Sounds good. Thanks, Ethan.